Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. We started off the week with a birthday party. Little Norman turned 1 year old and we all had a great time celebrating his birthday. We did a homemade cake and some homemade frosting. We all got to sing happy birthday and we had a great time. Hi, my name is Sonia. I'm a homeschooling, homesteading, spirit-filled, Torah-keeping mother of 10 and you are watching IHN Homestead. Colossians 3:17 states, "And whatsoever ye do in word or deed, do all in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God and the Father by him." I have some fun things to share with you this week, everything from red beets to red beans to ducks. And we also had 2 catastrophes in the kitchen this week that I will share with you here in a bit, so stay tuned. We started off the week with more corn. I'm not going to, of course, show you guys the whole process because we've done corn more than once. But like I said, whenever I get the corn, we usually keep a couple dozen for ourselves to get through the week with. And then we go ahead and we freeze the rest. And since my local farmers market has had some beautifully fresh corn every week, that is what we've been doing, buying some for us and then putting the rest down in the freezer. And we had another beautiful day, so we were out on the porch getting all the corn taken care of. Rebecca thought it was so cool. She found a little baby corn, she said. She thought it was pretty darn cute. So that was the way we started off our week with the preservation. And then we went inside and we started working on all those red beets. And with the red beets, Peter decided to get his hands dirty and he decided he was going to help me out. And he is scrubbing all the red beets clean the best that he can, filling them up in this pan. And then he is going to fill that pan with water and he is going to get that pan on the stove. And we are going to cook the red beets down, not to where they're super, super, super soft, just enough that you can get a fork in them is what I was told. The recipe that I am using for this is from some Amish friends of ours. The red beets that I did last year, my children didn't like very well, so we're trying something new. So while that is on the stove going, I am going to work with the ducks that my son Jacob had butchered, and I'm going to get them in these roasting pans. I had to borrow a couple of roasting pans because I have not ordered any new roasting pans yet. So I borrowed some from some friends and family of mine so that we could get these ducks processed into a yummy broth to put down in the basement. So I'm just going to get them both in the roasting pans here once I get them unstuck from the bags. I ended up having to tear the bags. I don't like tearing bags because if I can wash and reuse them, I try to do that, but these bags had to get torn because they weren't working. But we had, I think, 8 ducks total, 8 or 9 ducks total that we put between these 2 roasting pans. And then Mary and Peter started filling up these roasters with water. And then, of course, Adam was being his adorable little self, watching and waiting to see what was going on. But I think we ended up putting about 3.5 gallons of water in the large roaster, and I think Peter put about 2.5 gallons in his roaster. His roaster was just a smidge smaller than Mary's. I think this one that Peter is working on was an 18 quart. And I think the one Mary's working on was a 22 quart. You can see the tag underneath her dress. Friends of ours had gone to a thrift store down in southern Ohio and they saw some dresses and they thought of Mary and she forgot to take the tag off her dress, but that's okay. But anyway, so the kids are getting this done and I did not add any seasonings to this or anything like that. What we do is we like to put these on for about 24 hours and by then all the meat falls off. And so once we strain it and let it cool, we like to go through and pull all the meat off and we'll use that separately in a separate dish. And then we, of course, like I said, we'll strain all the broth off and then we'll go ahead and can that broth up later on this week. The red beets are now done. And so I'm going to get them all peeled and rinsed and ready to go in my big pan. Once I got these all peeled, I started to dice them up, and I ended up just using the exact same pan. And of course, I had to try one because they were really yummy. You know, when I was a child, I didn't like red beets, and now as an adult, I think they are delicious. And so now I'm just going to chunk them up into about 1 inch chunks, and I'm going to get them all back in that same pan that I just used. And I'm sorry, I did not get video footage of it, but I added in vinegar, water, sugar, and celery seed. And the Amish recipe had quite a bit more sugar than what I'm accustomed to using, but that's okay. Now, I didn't get to canning those that day, so the next day I reheated them, got them up to a good boiling temperature. Not a full boil, but it had to be, well, no, I do think it was a full boil because they had to be really super hot. Her recipe actually stated that you did not have to water bath them. All you had to do was fill them up with very, very hot and put the lids on and the rings on and then just turn them upside down. Now, I've never done that before, and I asked her, I said, is that really going to last? You know, like, are the seals really going to stay sealed? Well, she went down into her cellar and brought me up some of hers and showed me, and yeah, the seal was still good from the year before when they had done their red beets. And so I thought I'd give it a try, but I didn't want to do it with all of them. So what I decided to do was, just, clean my rims like normal. I'm going to get the lids on here next. And then after that, I'll get my rings on, and I have my water bath canner. I have that on the stove, and there's my lovely mother in the background helping me out in the kitchen, keeping things clean so I can keep working. This is her 1 day a week that she comes out and just helps me out around the house. And again, I greatly appreciate that. I have a lot of fun when she's here with me. So I decided to fill up my water bath canner with as many jars as I could, and these jars were extremely hot. You'll see me kind of shaking my fingers every once in a while because, whew, they're hot jars. And of course, you get about 7 in there, and I had 10 jars total that I ended up with the red beets. So what I did with the last 3 jars, I took my rag, I laid it out, and I flipped them like she said, and I decided to just let them set overnight. Actually, it was a good full 24 hours before I checked them, and guess what? They actually worked. This is what all my jars look like when they were done. You can see the jars in the back are still flipped over, but they sealed, and they sealed very, very well. The next thing we did this week is Mary wanted to try her hand at doing some canning beans, excuse me. And she wanted to do all the video work herself. So she was in charge of the camera for this project for the most part. I was not home at this time, but she asked if she could do it, and I told her she could. So she is getting some red beans measured out into that colander, and she is going to take those. She's going to rinse them, make sure they're all nice and clean. Oh, there comes Norman. Oh dear. And when I was watching this video footage and watching what she was doing, afterwards when I had gotten back, I was so proud of her because instead of leaving the beans on the floor for little Norman to get into, she was being a great big sister and she got those beans closed up. And you can see them like, hey, I wanted to play with those. And she put them up on the counter out of his way. And that really, really blessed me. I was very thankful that she did that because that would have been a mess if he got into those beans. Not only a mess, but it could have been a very big choking hazard for the little man. And now she is here. She is washing all her beans. She's getting them rinsed off, getting all the dust and the dirt and going through them and picking out everything that wasn't supposed to be in there. And I thought, you guys, she did a really, really good job. I was very proud of her. She did great. She took the beans back over to the counter and she started putting in 1 cup worth of beans into all these quart-sized jars. And what we're going to do with these beans is instead of just leaving them plain like we've done in the past, I decided to try to make some chili beans. And so I looked up a recipe online for the chili beans and went to the store and got some of the ingredients that I needed. And there they are. I am back home now, and Mary's getting all those ingredients out and getting them ready on the counter. I had to pick up some oregano, some onion, and some garlic because I was all out. And I'm going to start distributing them into each jar. Mary went and got the computer for me so I could double check the recipe. But I started off with the oregano, and then I moved on to the chili powder. And this was, I think it was a tablespoon of each almost. I would have to double check the recipe, but it was just very basic. I just Googled, went online, and I Googled just a basic chili bean canning recipe. And that is what I did. This is some onion. I couldn't find, go figure, I could not find a big thing of onion powder at Walmart. So I got minced onion instead, and it still works just as well. And then this is some chili powder that I am topping it off with. And it was funny because as I'm doing these beans, all those seasonings, the smells, they smelled amazing. So I'm really, really looking forward to having this winter, some yummy chili beans this winter. And I topped it off. We finished it off with some salt. Now, some of the things that I might do with this is, of course, yes, use it as a chili base. It's a lot of seasoning, but I'll use it as a chili base, and we'll add more tomatoes and stuff to this. But something that my mom used to make us growing up is she would take a small casserole dish, and she'd put cream cheese on the bottom, and then she would top it with the Hormel chili beans, and then she would top it with cheese, and she would bake it in the oven. And I thought, ooh, maybe we could try something like that with these. So we got the air bubbles out, we got the rims cleaned off, and now we are getting the rings, or the lids and rings on. Mary and I are working together very well, and we're just really flowing today in the kitchen. I was super excited to get these done, and in the canner, because like I said, they smelled really good, and this is the first time that I've tried something like this, and so we will see how it goes. And then we're going to get these over into the second kitchen, into the canners in the second kitchen, get the canners all set up and ready. They're already ready to go. And these will can at 10 pounds of pressure for 90 minutes. And there goes Mary with her beans. And then I was watching her. I didn't realize she was doing this. She was trying to see how many she could fit. She kind of tested it out like, I think I got this. Yep, she got it. And she even gave us a thumbs up. Anyways, so now here we are, second kitchen, getting the canners set up and ready. I already have the first smaller canner going. Second canner is good to go. And then guess what, you guys? We had our first catastrophe. My canner seal blew off, and it made a mess. Thankfully, none of my jars blew up or busted, so I was really happy about that, but they were a mess, and they needed cleaned. Oh gosh, everything was just a mess. And then in my second canner, I'm not sure why, nothing happened with it, but one of the lids blew off of one of my jars, so I must have tightened that lid down too tight, so I ended up having a mess to clean up. This is how that first batch, though, turned out. In the smaller canner, the rest of them sealed just fine, and they did just fine. So I had those jars that I could still put down in the canner. But the next day, all these jars, I had to go through, remove all the rings, and it took me a while. But I went through and I cleaned every single jar because I looked it up online to see if it was okay for me to try and recan these. And everything that I read said that as long as I did it in less than a 24-hour period, that it would be fine. So when I put those jars in, it was later in the afternoon. I had to let them set for at least an hour or so before I could even pull them out of the canner. And this was the first thing I started the next morning. And so this was less than 12 hours difference between the time that it happened and everything was taken out of the canner to when I'm now cleaning and trying to get everything redone and reset. So once all these got cleaned and wiped down and wiped off, I then went through and removed all the old lids. They said that I could not reuse these lids, that it wouldn't be safe to reuse these lids, and I really didn't want to chance it. And so I removed the lids. We re-cleaned all the rims, restirred them. I filled up the ones that needed more water, got more water, and we just started the process all over again. Mary was there in the background. She had made sure I had all my lids ready on the stove. And so we tried the process all over again, but this time, because my canner is, my big canner, my main canner is out of use right now, out of commission, I could only do the 7 jars at a time, and that took me a very long time. And so my canning this week got scaled back dramatically because I wasn't able to do as much at one time. So now here we are at catastrophe number 2. This broth that I am working with, guess what? It is not duck broth. For some reason, and I'm not sure what happened, my roasters dried out overnight and I lost everything. I could not even salvage the bones because everything was so dry and terrible. And I'm looking at my roasting pans thinking to myself, what happened? I double checked my recipe, 350 degrees for 24 hours. Everything was fine. So I'm not sure if one of the lids both of them actually got knocked off somehow. I have no idea what happened. But thankfully, we still had some chickens that needed to be processed. So I had to throw everything out and restart. And so this is chicken broth instead of duck broth. And so, yes, that was our second catastrophe for the week. And yes, it was just, I don't like losing food like that. Broth is something that we go through a lot, not just in the winter, but all year round, especially. And so, but I was thankful that this worked out. So we went ahead and I think we had 4 chickens that needed to be processed. We put 4 chickens in the roasting pan. But this time, instead of 350, I only set the temperature for 200, between 200 and 250. And I watched it like a hawk just to make sure nothing happened. And so, and I ended up getting a decent amount of broth out of this batch, as you can see, wasn't too bad. And so we're going to get all this mess cleaned up now. We're going to get the rims wiped down so there's nothing on them that will prevent them from sealing properly. And the chicken broth only needs to can for me, at 10 pounds of pressure for, I believe it's 25 minutes. And so we got our superb lids that are going on. We got our rings that are going on, and we are going to get those over to the canner and get those canned again for 25 minutes at 10 pounds of pressure. When we have these catastrophes like this, I did cry for a little bit, very briefly, but I cried because, you work really hard for something, and when you see things fall through, it's upsetting because you've just lost out on all that. But at the same time, I know that the Lord is sovereign, and I know that I serve a great God, and I know that it's okay, and that our family is going to be cared for whether I do all this work or not. The Lord is going to care for my family, but He's given me the knowledge and the ability to do these things, so that's what I'm going to do. But those are the beans because I couldn't can the rest of them, so I just put them in jars. At the end of the week, preparing for Shabbat, this is what we did. Mary and the little kids went down the road to the bridge and they found some beautiful flowers, and she is putting some flower vases together for the end of this week. But hey, that is actually the end of this video. I thank you guys for watching, and I really hope you enjoyed the time that you got to spend with my family. Remember, Colossians 3:17 states, "And whatsoever ye do in word or deed, do all in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God and the Father by Him." If you haven't yet, please like and subscribe to our channel. It really blesses us to see those watching and following and keeping up with the family. And I hope that these videos are also blessing you guys and that you are enjoying yourselves, that you are learning, and that your relationship with the Lord is growing. So again, thanks for watching and God bless you guys. Have a wonderful rest of your week.